Hey everybody, this is Zach of Amateur Artist Assembly. I'm coming to you. This is episode 5 of our podcast, and today we're going to talk about profit versus passion. This is kind of a melancholy or sort of a somber cast because this will be, at least for the near-seeable future, the last time we have James in person. We might try and work out something online or over Skype, but he is moving away, moving out of Morgantown. I'll let him say a little bit more about that, but...
Going on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I'm pretty bummed out about it.
Easier things.
So everyone else can introduce themselves, say a little bit about what you're working on and what's going on in your lives.
All right. Your usual hosts here today. Don't have a guest today. So I'm Justin, and right now just finished out my semester and getting ready to get started in some personal and internship stuff. So that'll be exciting. Maybe see some more work coming out for Amateur Artist Assembly. We're going to try to get a website up soon and get a gallery up of art from guests and from ourselves, as well as short stories and things of the like.
I'm James, and like Zach said, this is my last in-person cast with you guys. I'm not really working on anything right now except packing up and moving away, because Morgantown is not healthy for me psychologically. So I'm moving to Lewisburg, and hopefully I'll be able to either over Skype or just some other way communicate with you guys for the other podcasts that we do in the future, because I don't want to not do any of these. So yeah.
And as well, we'll be trying to siphon a little bit of James' work as well to keep on the website and keep you guys updated on how he's doing out in Lewisburg. Or Louisville. Lewisburg, okay.
Which is a very, it will encourage me to make a lot more art, hopefully.
Good.
There, yeah.
Yeah, because you'll be probably living with artsy people.
Yeah. That
helps so much.
Yeah.
Good.
That's one reason why we wanted to start off this podcast, at least me personally, is because it keeps me motivated to keep working. Or, for me, it really jump-started, because I've only been seriously writing for 4 months or so. So, keeps me on track and gives me a reason to do stuff and to keep going forward. Partially. Most of it's personal, but it helps.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to keep this going. We want everyone to still stay involved with it, because it is good. We started up, like Zach said, for all of us to kind of keep ourselves motivated to pursue what we really want to do, and kind of as a beacon just to show that is doable. I mean, we've got 5 2-hour-long podcasts out now, which is something I didn't even think personally I'd be able to keep up with. I've had a problem for a long time not being able to consistently keep up with things. Hopefully there's no future business people out there hearing this. But yeah, this is actually helping me out with that a lot. This has been one of the most consistent things right now in my life. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to keeping it going and hopefully growing it even farther than what it is now.
Yeah, structure's always good, even in creative things where structure's not always the best, because you got to have creativity to do your creative work, but structure helps with that a little bit. It's a little bit of an anchor. That's what I would describe this as. It's a tiny little anchor. Happy little cloud.
Bob Ross. happy little mistake.
Oh man, that's like going back to the very first podcast. That's
One quick thing on Bob Ross is play a game online called Dota 2, and they just came out with a big patch for it. And one thing you can do now is they have a item you can buy in it called the Ironwood Branch. And now they have what used to just give you a couple stats to make your character stronger. Now you can plant it, and it grows into a tree. And the patch notes, it was like, you can now plant ironwood branches, and they'll grow into happy little trees. It's like a homage. It's real cool.
Thought that you were going to tell me that they made a Bob Ross announcer pack.
That would be cool. That'd be amazing.
I would do that.
Oh, look at that. You've got a happy little quadcast.
So yeah, today's topic is, I'm calling it profit versus passion. Now, obviously, those things aren't opposites. They're not dichotomous, but there are times, especially in an artist's life, where
they can seem that way. Sure.
Yeah, they can seem that way, and they're not always together at the very least. So kind of what sparked that for me, because I'm usually the guy who comes up with the topics for the show, is I just got and I'll do some shout outs at the end of the show about this, but I just started doing some, it's kind of like freelance, but it's a little bit more structured than that. Some writing for a website called Screen Rant, and it's obviously like journalism. It's like editorials and stuff. It's more technical. It's more factual. It's very real, practical, ground based, and I like it a lot. I'm not trying to sound ungrateful. I'm so happy for the opportunity. It's really fun. It's way better than anything else, but it's not my dream. You know what I mean? I'd rather be writing short stories or writing a book. Fiction is where I like making up stuff, and I like making up worlds and characters. That's what I like. And you can't really do that as much with editorials or journalism. So it's not. It's a time in my life where I have to. Of course, I'm still doing all my other stuff, but I have to take a little bit of time out of my day, and I have to kind of do some work rather than just have some fun. So it got me thinking. I was like, let's talk about that on the show.
Yeah, and I think it's a great topic, especially right now too, because we're all out of school now. At this point, I'm done with this semester, so now I'm starting to get into the realm where I can start working on stuff that I want to, just because I'm passionate about it. I'm not just because I'm assigned to do it for school or for an internship. And it's definitely the thing that I like about being assigned work is it gives me kind of a concrete goal that I need to work towards, and it keeps me working towards it because I know that there's either going to be a repercussion or there's going to be a benefit for me doing
that
it.
Structure.
Yeah, and it gives me that structure that I need to create content. Like, for example, my figure drawing class, we created so much content in that class just because every day he gave us something to work from and gave us like a palette or tools to use to make that final product, and we had to finish that within the time we had. So because of that, I got a lot of work out of that class. I got a lot of content. And now I need to try and figure out how to translate that into my own work and be able to set goals for myself on like some of my artwork to try and make more of it and also make maybe a profit off of it. That in my opinion is like the hardest thing to do, is to try and make something you want to, but also make it to where someone else will see the value in it and also want to partake in it or purchase it. And as far as that goes for like being out of college, one of the things that I'm a little terrified of is, since I am in graphic design, I'm worried that because I'm in a major that requires me to work from clients, and typically I get a lot of instruction rather than creative freedom, I'm wondering how I'm going to enjoy designing logos and templates and things like that for big companies or for businesses that are going to want something specific. I'm just hoping it doesn't suck the soul out of my out of my artwork. So that's like a big worry of mine when it comes to, like, I know it'll make me money, but I'm not going to be that passionate about it.
Yeah, it's very similar. Because it's really nice. You can still be creative in the more I don't know what to say, like direct, practical, real life application of like writing or like drawing, painting, whatever. There's still room for creativity, but it's not as much as you would like as a creative person. So like for drawing logos, example, graphic design work, the company's going to be like, here's what we want. So you're going to have guidelines, which you wouldn't have if you're just doing something on your own. So it's not as much fun, but you still have that creative element. You still it's still at the end of the day going to be your design. So it's not the end of the world, but there definitely is something to be said about, like I said, passion versus profit. Because at the end of the day, at least for me, journalism isn't my passion. I still really like it from what I've done of it, but if I could, I'd prefer to be making my money selling books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel like that's probably the same for you with graphic design. You're gonna if you end up developing logos for big companies, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. You're gonna make a lot of money, and you're gonna like it. But at the end of the day, there'll probably be something else a little bit more creative you'd enjoy more.
Yeah, and I think it's finding the practicality and your art is, I think, the biggest struggle for visual art, at least in my opinion. What about for you, James? As far as animation goes, like what? I know that a lot of animation typically falls into like advertisement and stuff like that as well. But it could also be for something like what I see as the dream job for animation is something like movies or
like
video games
like
or
I
something
think
where
James
you're
has said it
storytelling.
before, Pixar, and that's
Mhm.
a lot of people say like, yeah, I want to work for Pixar.
Like that's the
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I don't think I've ever really made anything um for profit, but I mean that's not true. I get like you were saying, anything assigned to me in school technically would be for profit because
yeah.
I'm not doing it. Well, that's not
It's
true.
for
I am
intellectual
doing
profit,
it for
I
yeah.
guess.
It's
Mhm.
like I'm doing it for myself, but the end result is like I'm doing this so I can get by in school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that I don't put any passion into what I do,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm assigned, but I feel like if if I didn't have that deadline or if those guidelines, like it'd be more organic than what it is, because everything that I've made so far has, the whole backbone of it is I'm doing this because there's a deadline and I have to. But also, again, there is that passion in it. Like a lot of my animations, um, they can't be used to like they can't be used like graphic design would be used, because
Mm-hmm.
my work is just my mind poured out onto a screen, and like that's a lot more
It's a lot more storytelling,
yeah, it's like it's more
Mhm.
storytelling than it is like
getting
just
across like
it's structured.
concepts.
Yeah. So I guess in that way I'm not sure if you would call mine more passion or profit,
Mhm.
or just a combination of the two. But I'd really like to get into like a studio or something and
Yeah.
make
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
purely out of passion and
I
see
agree.
how that turns out.
And
I agree.
I should say too, probably writing is like that one thing to where it can either be the most creative thing in the world or it's the most soulless thing in the world. Like then there's that happy medium. I feel like journalism and like editorial style writing is that happy medium in between where it's both not soulless, but it's like sort of practical and creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And then uh, obviously writing your own books and short stories and fiction, that's completely creativity. But then there's like technical writing
I was
where
gonna
you're
say, you know what
like
soulless writing is?
yeah,
Engineering textbooks.
exactly.
That's soulless writing.
Yeah.
there's a lot of soulless writing out there. So
Oh god.
writing is one of those things, one of those art forms where probably one of the only ones where it's like you can have the most creative person doing it ever, or you can have like the most robotic person ever doing it. And
You could graphic design kind of falls into that a tad bit because like I'm gonna give you an example here. That patent work that I did, technical drawing. Literally, it's just technical drawing. It's drawing things for measurement size so someone can see it and take it and be like, oh, this is what I need to build. Um, you could kind of sneak some like I don't know creative elements into it with like the way you lay it out and like what you use. For example, I have a dog in mind that's wearing the collar that I'm designing, and that's something I didn't have to add, but it kind of gives it that more like oh, you see, this is how this goes on this dog, and this is how it'll fit. But I've definitely like in college I've had projects where I'm like, oh man, I love this project. It's my baby. Like I'm really proud of it. And I've also had ones that just like have nothing in them. Like I don't even want to be associated with it because
Yeah.
it's something I did just to get it done. I don't like what it became.
this.
All I did was go through the steps to make it, and it makes it very like dead and soulless and just it makes it just it's something that's just to get by. Which I don't. When I think about profit in art, the two ways that I'm thinking about right now goes into like you have people that become really popular for their style of art that they create. And typically, those are people that are very passionate about their work and will make a business of just what they make. And then you have people that can like take some of their stuff and mass produce it, like t-shirts and things like that. Artwork on t-shirts. There's a lot of artists right now that are like self-made artists off of just their Instagram accounts and things like that.
Mhm.
And I think that's something I'd like to explore. Maybe that would you consider mass production art as soulless art since it's used for like
depends.
I don't know. I'm trying to do that on Instagram, like use that like solely for art.
Yeah.
Like no pictures of no selfies or no. It just it's like photos that I
promotion.
Yeah.
Yep. So purely for promotion. I want to try and do that. And
That's what all my social, like, I don't even tweet or do anything on Facebook anymore. It's just for promoting like my writing or this podcast for the most part.
Yeah, that's what mine is starting to turn into as well. And a lot of people will go as far as to say you're a sellout for doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, now that I'm kind of growing up and not becoming so naive to the fact that people have to make money, it's almost insulting to hear people call people sellouts because they're trying to make money off of
there's a big
endeavor.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference between like tweaking your work to make money and like only making work that makes money.
Yeah.
I feel like sellout is for art is probably most synonymous with like musicians. You associate it with musicians a lot because musicians, they start out doing their own work or whatever, and then they get to a big record label, and the record label's like, you have to do this, and then their music changes a lot. People are like, oh, you sold out, it's not as good. I don't know if you find that as much in other art forms, but there's, like I said, there's a big difference between there's a big difference between trying to make money and selling out, you know?
Yeah, and it's, what I've seen it applied to a lot is just content creators that get sponsorships now. Because sponsorships...
Oh, yeah, you got like, if for example, we ever got a sponsorship in this, we'd have to, like, plug it during the breaks or whatever, and people are like, oh... Amateur Artist Assembly sold out. I was one of their listeners when they only had 12 whole listeners.
Yep. And then people get mad because, like, something that I feel like has become a big problem nowadays with digital media is that people don't realize these people have to make money, and they don't just make money off of you just watching their video.
But there is no doubt that there are some people who, like...
I mean, there are, but I think there's
the
less
culture
of those.
and the lifestyle overshadows the art. You know what I mean? Like, people being a rock star becomes more important than playing rock music to some people, and that would be a sellout.
The big sign of sellouts right now is the whole Vine community.
Yeah.
The Vine community is a bunch of people that have just sold out to sponsorships and things like that.
YouTube gets like that a lot too.
Yeah. YouTube also is guilty of it. But I do see a lot of content creators that people don't realize that when, like, okay, we'll use YouTube as an example here because I know how that works, is the way people make money on YouTube is ads.
Mm-hmm.
It's all through AdSense. So if they are strictly just using that and you have ad blocker turned off, like pretty much the majority of people do, they're getting no money for you viewing their videos, and they're not getting any money. They can't fund their videos, and a lot of the content creators that are creating decent content on places like YouTube need money to
keep going.
Yeah, to keep going, to keep their bills paid, and to keep stuff going for their channels.
I feel like that's...
So what people have been turning to have been things like T-shirts, merch, and things like that, because that's a tangible thing that you can create and then give to people. But you see a lot of backlash from
I don't know about that. Well, I mean, of course you see some backlash, but I think going forward, it's actually really nice to see, like, people setting up, Patreons and GoFundMes and, like, donation pages, and people don't hate that. They understand there are a lot of people out there funding, because, I mean, especially for us, people, I'm sure it wasn't like this once upon a time, but people realize, like, this is what I've been meaning to say, you can't, passion alone isn't going to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
It can eventually, and I think I also want to talk about that. Passion is your creative work that's just, like, for me, writing like short stories and novels. I feel like one day that will pay off. So that it's like passion versus profit. That shouldn't be dichotomous. They're not complete opposites. But starting out, especially, it's hard. Like, you're not just gonna, like, especially for like a novel, that takes a long time to write and then a long time to, like, work to get published, and then people have to discover you and like your style and stuff. So it takes time for that. And then in the meantime, that's when you swallow your pride a little bit and you do some other stuff. Maybe it doesn't have to be with, like, for me, it doesn't have to be writing work, but maybe go get a job, minimum wage job somewhere, just whatever.
I think finding the line between passion and profit is all anybody wants, like, out of life, or ideally making your passion into profit, like just doing what you're passionate about. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to think that I wanted to be an architect, like, coming in, because that's all, like, precise measurements and, like, design. But I want to design buildings that are, like, physically impossible, like floating and upside down shit. But I don't know. I'm steering more towards trying to find my passion because I don't even know what my passion is right now.
Yeah, actually, that was the next question I was going to ask. What if you could pick what you wanted to do for money, anything at this point, within reason, obviously. Breathing. I want to breathe to make money.
Make armpit fart noises.
Yeah. But realistically, like if you could pick anything you wanted to do to make money, what would it be? I'll start with you, Zach.
Me? Mine would be telling stories. Like, it doesn't matter what form people listening to me tell a story or reading what I write. I just like telling stories. I always have. I can remember doing this and feeling bad about it because I was telling a lie, but I couldn't help it because I liked it so much in like elementary and middle school when I was real young. Some of it would happen at school, and someone would ask me what happened, and I'd make up like stuff that did not happen just because I wanted to tell a story. I don't know. So to me, I've always liked telling stories, and I like thinking about stories. I like thinking about especially things that can't happen in our world. I like make believe, I guess. So as long as I get to but I also like stories grounded in reality too. I like both. So telling stories is my passion.
Stories. I like that one. What about you, James?
Got no fucking clue. I mean, I would like to say making videos and stuff, but I mean, I've mentioned this before. It's more work for me now than anything. I don't really know. I don't know what I want to do. I know what I'm good at. I know what I can do, but I don't know if it's what I want to do in life. I mean, making videos, like it's fun, but it's also not fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it's work.
Yeah.
I remember back when I first started to try and make like just small little YouTube videos. Like it was fun when we were filming it, and it was fun when we were like getting everybody together and doing stuff. But then like one of my least favorite parts of it was like when I would have to go home by myself and just sit there and edit each video together. And I was like, man, I miss having everyone around, and everyone else is off having fun again now, and I'm sitting at home putting this thing together, and it takes hours for it to render and blah 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 and all that stuff. But yeah, I can understand that. It's a weird like you want like the creative part of video making, but like there's also a part in
I'm
it
like
that's very
I'm exactly like that too because I have a whole notebook full of stories I want to tell, but I'm not writing them. But part of that too is because it takes a long time to write a story. You know what I mean? So that's a little bit of it. But it is I understand completely. Like the writing element isn't as fun as thinking of the stories, but it's still really fun for me. So I can't. It's like the subscript of my passion. If you have like an outline and there's a big one, and then you have telling stories right underneath that would be like a big letter A, and then it says writing. So because I do like making up words and fitting the perfect word for what I'm saying.
yeah.
It's also circumstantial, for me too. Like, I think if I had the resources to like do what I wanted to, because as of now, I mean any video that I've had to make, I've had to like travel to the Creative Arts Center and use
so you've
everything
got that connotation
there.
kind of associated with it now.
Like if I had the resources to do what I wanted to do, like in my bedroom, like right there next to me, it might be a little more fun for me. I don't know. Maybe I should try writing.
Writing's fun. Honestly, if I were you, what I would do is I would just keep doodling, and I would just keep like writing and just keep making up stuff until you find something that's so good and that you like so much you can't help but tell it in some way.
Yeah.
Like whether it be animating a video or whatever.
That's when you know you found something that's worth following.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there are moments like that I've had when I'm making a video where I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm having a lot of fun, but I don't know, it doesn't last very long.
All right. For me, I'm kind of in the same boat, James, but I've been bouncing back and forth between the idea of being able to just kind of run a business that because right now at this point in my life, I really enjoy kind of creating things in general and just having something that I can create that is mine that I can kind of follow through. And for example, like right now, this is something I'd like to keep doing and just keep kind of pursuing as a living. Producing, even, I guess, would be a good way to put it. Because right now I'm caught up in a lot of different things at the moment, as far as design work, scheduling together things like this, coming up with new ideas for this show and for what is going to be in the future. Then in general, just kind of finding what mediums of art that I like to work in and creating in those. Like recently, I found that I really enjoy sculpture, as well as illustration. And if I could find a way to kind of put all that into one thing and maybe just like this business that I can run, then that would be great.
One cool idea too is you could have the same thing you're trying to show people, whether it's an idea or just like an aesthetic or whatever, a style. You could do that, but you could do it in multiple forms. So you could like sculpt it and paint it and draw it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same thing, but like maybe like a series of themes. Like there's one motif, and then you take that motif and you have like a painting and a drawing and a watercolor, a charcoal, a sculpture, a metalwork, a woodwork. I think that'd be cool.
That almost goes into the line of concept making, where you take something from.
I really want to do something like that. The only thing is, I don't have the skills for it. The only thing I can do is write. I can't draw or anything. But I've always wanted to do something like that. But I think it's funny because James have a hard time pinpointing a passion because it's hard for him to find something he likes, and Clem's having a hard time pinpointing a passion because there's too many things he likes.
Bastard. I wish I could trade places with you.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I love that that's a problem I have. But if I could narrow it down to one thing, I'd say that I want to do something for a living where I bring creative people together and create content with them.
That's kind of what we're going towards. I hope one day, whether it be my main thing or a side thing, just something I'm a part of, it'd be nice to have our goals going forward with this podcast is to be more than a podcast. We're going to have a website. It's going to have a whole art gallery of our art, our guests' art, just a bunch of different stuff. We're trying to build a community and bring people together and just show off art.
Well, there you go. This could be my passion, I guess. I mean, because I haven't had any problems yet doing this.
Yeah, like this is something that I look forward to every time we do it, and it's always very enriching and very. I mean, I discover things like I get an inspiration and more ideas from this podcast and just from this thing that we've created, and I'd like it to just kind of be where I kind of focus all my energy at the moment. So hopefully, this can be my passion and my profit.
Yeah, that'd be nice to make this profit.
Oh yeah.
But if it doesn't, it's still nice as a passion. That's the cool thing. Like,
it is.
I think no matter what, it's important for people to never give up on your passion in favor of profit.
Yeah.
You make enough. Yeah, don't sell out. Make enough money that you can have a shelter and eat food, and then do what you love. And then I think you can be poor. If you're poor and doing what you love, you're going to be happier than rich and doing what you hate.
Yeah, exactly. If you can, like, my goal is to make enough money that I can be comfortable, and then still have like what I need.
Time to.
Yeah, like I don't want a mansion or anything. Like,
I'm not by any means trying to get.
That's the thing. It's more of a dream to make a modest means doing, like for me, writing than it would be to like be a billionaire in a mansion, by whatever means necessary.
Yeah, that's why I didn't stick with engineering, because engineering would have made me money, but I don't want to do that. Like, it's just not interesting to me. It's not interesting enough to me to, I don't know, sit and design products for people and go through designs for.
And it sounds like it would be really interesting until you see the process it's done in.
Yeah,
it's not what you imagine. It's going into it. It sounds a lot more creative than it is.
It does.
And it does. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of creative aspects in engineering still, and I'm sure a lot of people who are engineers separate like the hard work, putting pen to paper, going out in the field. They separate that a little bit from like the creative aspect, because there are a lot of creative things you can do as an
But I think
engineer.
there's places that,
But-
that they teach it in a way that
Yeah, I think
would be-
it's mainly the teaching pattern that's the problem. I think.
like I know there's places where they for example, like right now I see so many programs that are working to get kids interested in like technology and inventiveness and just things like that. Whereas when we were kids, that wasn't like the focus, I guess. Like wasn't on getting kids interested in like robotics or medicine. Like now you have like Fairmont has a robotics club.
Mhm.
Fairmont, like that area has a robotics club, which is ridiculous. Like Burlington and Kaiser don't even have robotics clubs. But just like having stuff like that to get the youth interested in things like that at the point in their life when they're seeing like cartoons and things that are more related to like creative endeavors like that, music, art, games.
It's fun to watch the most passionate scientists because I don't know, you just see it in a lot of people. Like the reason they became scientists is because they want to like go to Mars. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely still creativity even in the most like practical professions.
Oh yeah.
And there's like a childlike nature that I don't think ever leaves anybody if they're doing what they love. So
I agree.
and that's another thing too, the work element. If you really are doing what you love, then the work element of doing it isn't as bad. Like it's kind of like what I was talking about for writing. Like at the end of the day, you're writing words on paper. Like who liked writing essays in high school? Pretty much nobody, and that's basically what you're doing when you're writing. But you're so engrossed in the storytelling aspect. At least that's how I get that. Like it doesn't even become tedious for me.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
I think another important thing too is if it ever does become tedious, you're probably just in a burnout stage. Maybe you should focus on something else for
anything you can have too much of.
it's like people who play video games for a living, which there are a lot of out there that do. They get burnt out because they're playing the same game for 12 hours a day. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like even if it's the most fun thing in the world, there's gonna be times where you have to move on and do something else for a little bit and then come back to it, or you just gotta power through it and eventually maybe you're depressed and maybe like the worst thing about depression is you don't want to do anything. Even the stuff you love becomes it's like all these flavors of food and they all just taste like gray.
Yeah,
That's the worst.
You're just empty.
It's the worst thing ever. So, but the only thing you can do is you just got to power through it, and then as you're doing that, it kind of comes back to you. I think, but it's really hard to get the motivation to get started on doing that.
I agree. There's times when I come home from my mundane job at Olive Garden, and because of just what I've gone through at work and just being exhausted from that and not feeling like I've done anything successful but just make a little bit of money to get by, like I get home and I just don't want to do anything. Like I'll sit around and I hate that so much, and that's one of the reasons I don't like that job. Because it's not like I'm not getting stimulated or inspired, or there's not any kind of learning going on in that scenario. I'm literally just going through mundane actions just to get.
That's why I'm so happy I got this job doing writing now.
Yeah, because that's something
Because-
where you can improve on your own work and you're still making money.
I've
and
tried doing the writing thing while also working a minimum wage job, but putting groceries in a bag just sucks your soul out. And after 8 hours of that, it doesn't matter how much you want to do it. You're just going to sit around and watch like a show and take your mind off how much your day sucked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I just go home and watch TV.
Yeah,
all the time.
It's hard to get out of that. It's like you have to go and you turn to escapism when you have like mundane days, and it sucks because you need something to inspire you throughout the day. Like something's got to stimulate your brain. Minimum wage jobs don't do that. They do not. They will never do that. I don't think anyone could say that their minimum wage job has
Stimulated them.
inspiring,
has inspired me to make this beautiful work of art.
I have drawn a Whopper.
Hey, yeah.
I mean,
It's glorious.
I will say there are people that take that and take the negative aspects of it and do stuff with that. But
It is motivating.
You know-
You get in this like motivating stage where it's like anything but this.
yeah,
So you work really hard to get out of that.
Now that you mention it, I think the people that do the advertising for like Burger King, like when you see up on the menu like number 1, number 2, I don't think those are even real pictures of food. I think they're like they're made of like plastic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're not.
And, like people,
There's a whole industry
get, like,
behind making like
Digital rendering.
they get like millions
They're
and
not even
millions
digital.
for their.
they're sculptured. They're
Oh, yeah.
sculptured. Like anytime you see like a photograph of anything, any kind of food, from any kind of like high profile company,
Advertisement.
it's
Sculpted.
Yeah.
it's either sculpted. They'll paint these things to make them look appetizing. It's insane. There's some documentaries on it. You guys should watch
It's
sometime.
funny.
But like, you know, like at our local Denny's, they have like this plastic desserts,
Yeah, yeah.
and if you go up, you're like, oh man, that looks real. Wait a minute, why has it got a sheen to it? Oh, it's plastic. But yeah, all that stuff is painted and sculpted to look so much better. That's why the food you get is
Maybe that's
never
why
looks like
artists like art so much, is because it makes us make worlds that are so much better than reality, in the same way that like that food is so much better than the reality.
Yeah.
Like reality sucks so much, we got to make our own.
Yep.
That's like a human element, I think, a human characteristic.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta strive to make life seem like it's not terrible.
I wonder if they have
'Cause-
fun doing. I wonder if that's their passion. I'm a fake
Sculpting food.
sculpted Whopper maker.
I wake up every day and I can't wait to make these tomatoes. Makes me happy.
It's actually pretty fascinating to see some of it because they like paint on the droplets
It's probably more
Oh.
like
and everything.
it's probably like I wake up every day and I'm so happy I'm making billions.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, because I guarantee that's a pretty. I mean, I doubt that they have to make them that often because, well, I don't know actually. There's a lot of advertising out there, and there's a lot of different things that have to be. photographed.
Advertisement is probably where the most of the corporate art's going. You know, make
Oh
that-
yeah, yeah.
I think so.
For sure. There's a lot of money put into just like if you go and look at a freelance graphic designer, like what they charge for like logos, and typically you don't just get a logo, you get like a whole packet, like a
Mhm.
brand packet. And that can range from $250 for like something real small and for like a small company, I guess, to like thousands of dollars. Because you may be getting like just this kind of like digital image along with some other things, but you're getting their ideas, their time, and all that. But there's a lot of money that goes into it. Like companies spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a brand that will catch someone's eye. Like they pay for the science, basically, the psychology. And that's the interesting thing about graphic design too, is it combines psychology and art. But it makes me wonder if that's like even where I'm going to go with my degree. Because to me it seems strange that I would be doing that kind of work. I know
Yeah.
that a lot of the times those like big companies will get their logos from like firms that hire like a bunch of graphic designers, and then they run the idea through like teams, and then they go through it, and it typically is like 5 or 10 graphic designers that design a logo rather than just one. Like it goes through a lot of
I think that's weird
intimate
too.
steps.
I think because like when you get into big projects like that are gonna make billions of dollars, you have like multiple writers and multiple artists makes a little more sense just because there's so much that one artist can't do. But I think it's weird. I think it's hard. I don't know. For me, it'd be hard to work on some like a writing project together with another writer. I feel like ideas would clash so much.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
also like
interesting.
you have like people are gonna have different visions. So like one person's gonna want to go right, another person's gonna go left, and you think, well, you're just gonna meet in the middle, but no, you're gonna have like some scenes that go left and some scenes that go right, and it's gonna not be as like congruent, continuous as.
Well, like with movies, like sometimes you'll have different writers, and I always wonder how that works because I mean,
It's like what we were just talking about with the Star Wars.
yeah, you're gonna have 3 different directors for 3 different movies that are all in a trilogy together. You're gonna have like a director makes so much impact on the way a movie goes.
The other thing I would say with that is that's different than if it was a different director for like a different half of a movie, because that way,
Oh, yeah.
that way
And
each
also it's not different writers.
yeah that way each movie has a personality, like an identity,
Yeah.
which is kind of you want it to share the same theme throughout and the same direction, but you don't want them to be the same movie necessarily. So
Yeah,
that
you
way,
don't want, like, episode 7 part 2.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That I think that is a good thing in that scenario. I'm talking about when you get like even for like a video game, there's like multiple writers. I've seen some like animations where they have a couple writers. It's like, how do you have for this 5-minute animation multiple writers? That just seems tough.
Yeah.
It's
I
like-
feel like
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. No, yeah, what you're talking about, like if you had 2 different writers for one story, it'd be like in a video game if like the lead artist or whatever, like you had 2 different ones and like your main character changes the way he
Yeah.
looks entirely,
Mhm.
like halfway
Yeah.
through the game. It's like, who is this guy? What
I
am
was-
I playing?
I brought this up in the last podcast with like the Walking Dead comics. The first comic that they released, they had I don't remember the names of the artists, but they had a different artist than they had for the whole rest of the series.
Uh-huh.
I remember reading the first one. I really liked the art in it. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh man, I can't wait to get to the second one. The second one, it was completely different.
Really?
Like
Yeah.
completely different. Like not even similar at all. And it was just so jarring to go from that to the other one. And honestly, it made me stop reading them because I really missed the old art style.
I think that's crazy too. How do you like? So all artists, like drawn artists, have their own styles. How do you make it in like a video game to where you have so many different artists working on that? How do you get it all looks the same though?
Yeah.
You have so many people with so many different styles, but they all the thing they end up producing looks the same. It feels like it's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's crazy, but there is such a thing as people learning styles. Like
Yeah,
people
yeah,
will
there
sit-
obviously.
I remember I used to watch this YouTube channel that was about like game design, and they had different artists come on at different times for like because what it was is they would do like animations. They wouldn't show their faces; they would just like talk, and then they would have like these figures that would represent each person that would talk on the show. And at times you'd have different animators that would have obviously different styles. So they'd be like guest animators, but then they would have like their 2 animators. One had to learn the style of the first person that ever started the podcast, and they just kind of like went on from that. Each artist had to learn that style. So it's interesting that there's also like while you might have writers that might learn someone else's style or learn to write in a certain way, you can have artists that also
Like,
learn to draw in that way, which is
I mean, I guess that's
Same.
what the purpose of like concept art is too. Like you have,
Mm.
you have
Oh, yeah,
like
that's a
hundreds
good
of people come in to this room of producers or creators or whatever, and they all, I guess they can
Have their
select
own vision.
things. Yeah, and like for the final product of the game, I guess they would take these different styles that look like they would seem together very well.
They could probably pick some of the best, or they could blend them all together.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's funny that you mentioned learning styles, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now with my writing on Screen Rant. So obviously for a website like that, they're going to want all their articles to have like a very similar like theme and style. And so I had that's what I did on like my first day. I had to learn how to write an article the way Screen Rant wants it. And it's real interesting. So I guess I know now kind of more of how that works. And then it's cool too, because even though now our structure and our format and probably our wording and our tone are going to be very similar, there's going to be you can still pick out, like sometimes I'll read an article on there by one person, and then I can pick out later who that same like author was, same writer. So even in things where it's still really structured and you want like the same, you can probably still pick out like, if you really know, like probably if you're on that art team and you're playing your game, you could probably pick out certain parts where you're like, oh, Doug animated that. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, something that just came to mind is 3D art. It seems like would be, I don't know. Like, think about a game like World of Warcraft. Like, that obviously all has one central style, right? Like, everything has got, like, it follows the same. Like, you can even see games now that, like, copy that, just that style of 3D modeling.
RuneScape.
Yeah, like, it started to do that. And there was a couple spin-offs of just that brand of MMO that came out that looked almost exactly like it, just with a couple of tweaks here and there.
I'd say actually a good example of that a little bit is remember how we got so excited for Warhammer?
Yeah.
Warhammer Online? I
Yeah.
think Warhammer which is weird because the actual Warhammer universe and the Warcraft universe, Warcraft is actually inspired from Warhammer, but still at the end of the day, they look differently. Like if you look at Warcraft 3, the video game, and like the Warhammer 40k figures, those have different art styles, but the Warhammer Online video game and World of Warcraft look very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with that style. It's like cartoony, but at the same time, it's like kind of gritty and grounded in reality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. WoW has a very distinct style, and so does the Warcraft. Because World of Warcraft looks a lot like Warcraft 3, which I like a lot.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Where does style come from? Like, where does that stem from?
That's something I've always wondered. Like, where in someone's growing up do they like start drawing or start getting inspired to do things in this certain way? I feel like it's just an inherent like thing that you're born with. Is
what you like too, and you get inspirations from it too. Stephen King he has a book about writing. I haven't read it, but I've seen bits and pieces of it from my time on the internet. And style was one of the things he talks about in it. And he said like at one point, like he got really into like this certain person, and then at another point he was into like Lovecraft, and then at another point he was into like somebody else. And he had stories where first he tried to copy that style, but like then you're just copying a style and you're never as good as the original. Yeah. Then he had stories where you like combine all three and it was real awkward because that's three separate styles. They weren't blended together very well, and that was awkward too. So like, I don't know. Style's hard. I think it's one of those things that's a lot of it comes. A big part of it is knowing. You have to know what makes us like this guy's style is doing this sort of stuff. This guy's style is doing this sort of stuff. What do I want my style to be? And then you kind of look inside and you're like, I like short sentences, brief. Maybe I like brevity. I like concision. I like being succinct. I like saying a lot and a little. You know what I mean? Other people might be like the exact opposite of that scale. Like, oh, I like big bravado. I like grandiose. I like intricate, like stylized words that flow, and long, beautiful sentences and stuff, very prose. So, and then you gotta like, where do I fit on that scale? Maybe you don't even fit on that scale. Maybe you're on some other axis that's like even beyond. So,
before we get to our break here, I want to bring up another question real quick, just out of curiosity. If you had to nail down your style, as far as visual art, and then for you, Zach, your writing style, what would you say were maybe some of your big inspirations for where you're?
And then I think after we all go around, I think a good idea before someone answers what they think their style is, someone else should think.
What they think their style is.
So Clem, you start. What do you think our style is?
Your style?
You start with James first.
You're both together.
You gotta combine.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be tough. Oh man. See, this is something that I want to improve on too. I don't know a whole lot of artists by name at least. James' style. Let's see. I can describe what his style is, and I do get a lot of like elements of different animators from it, but I don't know the names of the animators.
I mean, don't even compare it to someone. It's its own
like
thing. Is the best way.
The best way I can describe James' style is it's dark, gritty. It has a lot of combinations of like mechanical objects with living things.
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah, very like anthropomorphic, but anthropomorphic machines. So I think there's a word for that, but I can't think what it is.
Biomechanical.
Yeah, biomechanical. And it's very like rig based. As far as his animation goes.
2D.
And, like it's got the kind of like nice paper animation quality to
That's how I would describe it. To me, it looks like flipping through like a doodle book. Because it's like black and white, so it's very noir. It's pen on paper, and then it's like 2D. It's very papery feel. So, and then you see like you said, it's a lot of machines come to life, and then it's a combination kind of like of machine and then like of people. You see that a lot.
Something else I also see in a lot of your stuff, James, is almost just like a dystopian element. It always seems like
surreal. It's really surreal too.
Yeah, very surreal and very like aftermath kind of.
It's kind of like everything got blown the fuck up, but nobody really like knows that it did or like minds.
Like they're still going about like life.
Yeah. It's like going on through life, even though everything's messed up. Like you don't even notice that things are messed up, but to the audience, you know.
Yeah. All right, James. So,
I like that.
what would
I
you
like
say?
that a lot.
What would you say are some of your inspirations for your art style, or how you got to that point?
And how would you describe your style? Yeah.
You guys use the entire fucking dictionary. Yeah, it's dark, it's gritty. It's very. I like intricate things. I like putting a lot of detail into like small amounts of space. Yeah, I like the like
Succinct is a good word for that.
Succinct. Yeah, I like things that make it look twitchy, kind of spastic.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's an underlying current of like paranoia in a lot of my animations. Yeah. As far as inspirations go, MC Etcher is one that I like his work. H.R. Giger, the guy that designed the Alien, from Alien, he's made a lot of crazy shit. Like in his house, he has like arms, like sculptures of arms, like joined together by syringes, and like chairs made out of like bones and stuff. Yeah, those are some of my inspirations.
Nice. Yeah, I can definitely see Escher and a lot
Yeah,
of your work.
I never really
about
noticed
that.
it till you said it, but I just looked at Escher the other day, and that's like, because it has the same like, especially, he has like 2D stuff, but he makes it 3D in like mind-bending ways, and that's kind of how I see.
Yeah. I like surreal things. I like things that can't exist in our world.
I wish that we had done the horror cast before you left, because I have a couple artists that I feel like would be right up your alley.
Oh yeah.
One of them is a Japanese artist, Chief Red. What's his name? I can't remember his name
I can't
off the top of my head. It's like Uro Sikushikawi or something like that.
Wow.
Really racist.
Good job,
probably.
Clem.
What if it's like exactly correct?
It might be. But I'll have to figure that out.
Uru Suzuki.
You just have to sound angry when you're saying Yoshimitsu.
But he's got like that. First of all, he's black. It's all black and white, which I'm pretty sure that's just because it's
Manga.
or manga, and it might have been in color at certain points. But it's very surreal artwork and stories, and it's also very gritty. And I don't know. I feel like it's something you'd really like. But okay, I think that's a very good explanation of your style, and I'm also very happy to hear that's some of the inspirations you got, because that's cool. All right, Zach.
I'm interested to hear how you guys would describe me.
Oh man.
I feel like also it's a lot harder to pick up writing styles unless you read a whole lot. It's a lot harder to pick up writing styles than like a visual.
Yeah.
I feel like the way you write, like it has a certain flow to it, but I feel like the way you choose words, like it's very specific. Like not only do you choose them for their meaning, I feel like you choose them because of like the way they sound, or the way that they flow together, like how they look on paper, like physically, like how that word looks. I feel like you make very careful decisions about what you put on paper. I don't know, and I like
agree.
that a lot.
I agree. One thing I've noticed about your writing, Zach, and especially with your novel, I won't mention the name because I don't know if we mentioned that on here yet or not.
You can mention the name of it. It's called Brother Black.
Brother Black. I don't know if you want to keep it a secret or not.
No.
Is that all your writing, fictional writing, is very grounded in your world. Like a lot of your, like you can definitely tell that you put emphasis on storytelling and fleshing out a world, because everything that you write into your book, it always has some sort of like, there's definitely something behind it. It's not like you're just going to mention something and then not elaborate on it. You know what I mean? You definitely don't follow Tolkien's "that's just the way things are." Like things have like a reason for being the way they are.
Yeah, there's a meaning.
They have a meaning to it, which I really like, because one thing I really like, and I really wish that a lot more games and books that I've read would elaborate on, is sometimes things are left too ambiguous, and I want to learn more about it. Like I
feel like some
hunger for that.
sometimes it's done on purpose, but I also feel like sometimes that's done for laziness. Like people are like, "Oh, this would be really cool. I want to put this in," and then some other guy's like, "Well, how are you gonna do it?" And the guy's just like, "I don't know, but I want it in." Like it matters more about getting it in than making it make sense. And that's a good. I never really thought about that.
Writes like that.
That's definitely how I would describe myself. Is like I like fiction and make believe, but I like to make it in a world that it makes sense for that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's good writing. Is when you make up your own world, but then you make up the like you explain with, not like a drop of exposition, but like through dialogue or whatever. You make it known to the audience like here are the rules of this world. Here has how it works, and then you elaborate on like the fantasy elements going
I know
from that.
probably no one else is gonna know this reference at all, but I'm gonna say Dmitry Glukovsky is someone that you like in the way that you describe your world and that everything has like a reason for being the way it is. It's the guy that wrote Metro 2033.
But I do also like. I like a probably about.
A little bit of it.
I like about 3/4, and then I like a 1/4 where like people are like.
I wonder what that like.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I like it to where
Yeah,
I like it to where you could find the answer if you lived in that world,
mm-hmm.
but the author doesn't explain everything to you, so you don't get to know it.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean?
up to interpretation. Yeah, I agree. You don't go too far.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say someone that goes too far. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't read it yet, so just from what you said, it sounds like Tolkien like kind of explains things to the minute details. Where you're just like, all right, we know how this goes now. Like we know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some things he explains so well, and also I have ragged on Tolkien before, but I actually finished Lord of the Rings and I loved it so much, and I love his style.
What was he talking? He described.
Oh, the fear in the men's heart,
like, and he
stank. Oh, yeah, the bird.
That.
Yeah, it was like a 3 or 4 line sentence. It was like a giant run on, like lots of like semicolon, and it was like, and the beast came, and it was black with a fell beak, and it had web-like sinewy wings, and it put fear in the hearts of men, and men shook before it and cowered. And then there was like a semicolon, and it stank. It's my favorite line ever.
That's funny.
And then I also agree with James in how that is exactly how I word. I like sometimes I'll finish writing. How I usually do it, that's usually done in edits. Like I'll put pen on paper and I'll get the thought or the idea down, and then I'll go back and change the wording or the structure to make it prettier. And I mean, some people make fun of authors who do this, but like I don't abuse the thesaurus, but I like to have like a thesaurus available to where I can like compare words. Like again, I always know the meaning of the word I use. If I don't know I look it up.
That. I think that's a good thing.
But I want to make sure the word fits the element. If it's like there are some words that are neutral, but there are synonyms to that neutral word that might be like a happier connotation. Like the reason we have so many synonyms, but like the reason why we have synonyms is because there's there's little teeny tiny differences that can make or break a sentence. You know what I mean? Otherwise, why would we have all these words that mean the exact same thing? Like
yeah.
And also I like to make I like pretty words too. Like I like to find like there's some words that I just like how it looks in my head. It's pretty, like zenith. I like that word. I like penumbra, like those type of words.
Mm-hmm.
They're real like, I don't know, they pop and they give me cool imagery. And then my influences. Also, I probably prefer on the style of like very prose, grandiose, intricate, probably more literary, like you kind of would see in the classics, versus like brief, brevity, concision. I like a bit more concise, I'd say. I don't like to go. I'm not that artsy when it comes to my writing. Sometimes I can get a little bit, but it's not my strong point. I don't think. I think I'm better at like saying a lot in a little, sort of. So I'd say it's probably more my style. And then my inspirations. I like Stephen King, both in writing and in storytelling, and then probably more so in the worlds he thinks of than like the stories necessarily, because his stories are probably even more so than mine, like very grounded in reality. To where it's sometimes you're reading Stephen King and you're like, am I reading fantasy or is this like real? You know what I mean? Sometimes that gets a little bit like that to me.
It's like the worlds get mixed.
Mm-hmm. And then also George R. R. Martin. I absolutely love George R. R. Martin. He's a good example too of like, I don't know. I think my writing style fits his a lot. And another big thing I like is I like stories within stories. There's like a story in the background, and I copy that a lot from like George R. R. Martin because that's what Game of Thrones is. The Song of Ice and Fire. There's a lot of the what the book focuses on isn't necessarily the story of the series. And I like that. So that's kind of what I'm going for too. So I mix those two authors a lot. I think I don't know. There's just a lot. I get a lot of inspiration from a lot of people, but
nice.
And then James, you describe Clem first.
Okay. I guess I'll start with what I've seen of like your graphic design work. It's very clean. It's very sleek. It's very polished too. It looks professional, like finished. Like this is the final product. I really like the logo that you designed for our website. And for what I've seen, I haven't seen a lot of like your drawing or whatever, but it's like the opposite of me. It's very realistic. Everything's anatomically correct. Which I like envy you for being able to do because I can't do it. It feels like you have a very clear image in your head of what you want, and you're very good at making that happen when you put it on paper.
Yeah, I think both in your graphic design and in your drawing, when you default to like doing your own thing, like when you're not doing like figure drawings, which you're doing for a class, when you default to like your own thing, it's very neat, colorful. It pops out at you like the way like Bison. That's how I see him. He's very stylized too, though. I don't know. It's weird to say that. And
yeah, you definitely have a specific style.
It's a little doodly, but not like super doodly, and then it's a little like cartoony, but not super cartoony. It's colorful. It's vibrant. It's kind of like Bastion, the game. It's very similar, I think. Like, you know what I mean? So it's smooth, like James said. Not a smoothness. Neat. Like you like everything like prim and proper. This is the place for this.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate way to describe it. It's funny though, that you say that I've got like that. It seems like I have a clear image in my head of what I'm drawing most of the time. A lot of the times, I'm just going with the flow.
Oh yeah.
It's just whatever comes out of my pen is what is on paper. There was a point where I was very particular about how I would draw,
structured,
and it would drive me crazy sometimes when I couldn't get exactly what I wanted on paper. And actually, a lot of the times, like if you look around some of my artwork, you'll see like a lot of failed drawings where I'll just like get something, won't like it, toss it aside.
The engineer in you coming out.
Yeah. Like I that's something I'm trying so hard to break. But there's a little bit of like perfectionist in some of my artwork, which bothers me. Sometimes it delays my work a little bit longer than it should. But oddly enough, when I started with art, I was a lot more in the cartoon aspect. Like, I don't know, Zach, if you remember when we were in middle school and high school, a lot of my artwork was a lot more of that realm. It stayed a lot more in the realm of cartoons and more unrealistic things. It's funny though, now that I've gone through engineering and into graphic design, I've seen my artwork become a lot more structured, a lot more minimalistic even.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Minimalist art is something I really, really, really like.
Yeah, I see that in you definitely.
And also just like professional looking, simple, kind of like concise, like with your writing where I want to get a lot in a little. Like with my a couple of my logos, I'm trying to represent a lot of ideas and concepts in just like 3 or 4 shapes.
I guess that's kind of what I meant when I like you have a clear image, like you know how to do like put things on paper using as little resources as possible. Yeah.
And then I think a lot of your stuff too is very real, right? Like James is surreal and you're very real, especially because like you get into like the sculpting, like you like. Your art platform is, and like how you said like you in a previous podcast you don't like digital as much, you like pen on paper. So like I feel like you really like being connected to like a grounded in reality in a lot of ways. And even like with Bison, like the whole time I was like, oh, I'll put roller skates on him, but at the end of the day you drew a buffalo. But you drew a buffalo like it's vibrant. It's It's not like it's
Like
real.
some-
It's real, but it's not uncreative.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like some weird element I added to is I added moss on its back for some
Yeah.
reason. Like,
But
I
moss
did
is
the
a real. Like a
thing.
buffalo could have moss, so it couldn't have roller skates.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's creative, but it's real. And then one last thing before we go to break is do you guys? I don't know if I've elaborated on this before, but do you guys see yourself as a gardener or an architect? And what that, I think George R. R. Martin came up with that. And like with an architect, it's exactly what it sounds. You plan out. It's like an engineer sort of. You plan out everything before. You have specific outlines, not even just for your book. Like I'm gonna do this chapter on this chapter, but you even like go into your chapters. Like this chapter is gonna, these characters do this, this, and this. Or with a gardener, you plant the seeds, and you have some. You know where you're gonna go with it. This is gonna be a tomato plant. This tomato plant's gonna go over here, but then you let it grow. It kind of has its own flow. And I'll just say I'm a gardener for sure.
I'd say that sometimes I'm a gardener, sometimes I'm an architect. I think a lot of the time I am an architect. I think just everyone around me would agree with that I like to plan things out. Like, even in the car on the way here, I was talking about, like, planning out questions for the next podcast and things like that. And typically, I don't know if
But
it's...
a mix is a good idea, because Bison was...
Yeah, that was a
Bison
very
was
organic thing.
yeah.
That just was like, I looked up a picture of a buffalo, and I was like, I'm going to draw that, because why not?
And what about you, James?
I'm definitely a gardener. Like, I've given up on trying to be an architect. I'll have, like, a set idea for what I want to do, but my ideas change 500 times throughout the process anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of avoided having a plan, and I just kind of let whatever happens, it happens.
Yeah. I think a lot of me being architecturally based is because of school. And just,
I don't know if there's
bad
anything
habit
wrong with
taking
being an
on-
architect
Oh
either.
yeah,
I think
no.
I think that's what gives.
But for
that's
me,
part of your
I
style.
want to
Really?
be more organic with my stuff. I'm trying to do that because when I'm organic, my work seems to benefit from it. At least certain aspects of my work.
It's funny because once upon a time I would have wanted to have been an architect because I think your end product matches what's in your head better. But I have such a hard time of like, I think of ideas, but then I don't try to think of any more than like the nitty gritty details is just impossible for me. So I just let it flow, and then the end result always comes out like my writing is always so much better when it's just flowing out of me and it goes one to the next. But anyways, with that, we're gonna go to break. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
You know why you're here. Don't bother speaking, it won't help. It is time to uncover some of your repressed memories. You won't like what you'll find. You're not coming back from this. They say you can find truth in dreams. Maybe you should listen to yours. Concentrate. Keep your eyes open. The house. Go inside. This man, he is very troubled. You've seen him before? Look closely.
Hello, everybody. We're back with episode 5 of Amateur Artist Assembly, talking about passion versus profit. And to start back up on this half of the segment, I wanted to talk about what's your guys' goals for turning your passion into profit? And what are your intermediate goals? Like, before you make your passion, how are you going to make your money? What are your goals, I guess?
All right, so what I'm looking at right now for turning art to profit, at the moment I want to just kind of build a small following on just social media to try and get people interested in my style, and then eventually from there sell a piece at a time. Get to the point where I can sell my work is the ultimate goal, the ultimate short-term goal right now. I just want to get to a point where people know my work enough to want to buy it. So I guess create a following is what I'm going for at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I want to, get my name out there, get a following. I'm not sure how marketable my work is. I don't really see any way.
I think there's a market for it. I think there's definitely a market for your work.
I mean, I'm not sure how I could sell it though. Like, ideally I'd like all my videos to be, free to watch. Because I think they should be. I think anybody should be able to watch what I make whenever they want to without having to pay me anything. But again, like, I gotta make money somehow.
And
so
interesting idea for animation. As far as making money, you wouldn't really be selling the clip. What you could do is start something like a Kickstarter or a Patreon, specifically a Patreon, because generally the way those work is if people want more content, they'll pay. They'll donate to help you make more content, like to keep.
Also, those are excellent because the people who can pay more usually do, and then they subsidize the people who can't. You know what I mean? It's real good for that's. It's actually why I really like that system. It's like pay what you want. You know what I mean? If you want it for free, if you don't, either if you can't pay for it or if you don't value it, that's fine. But if you do value it, then pay what you think is worth it. Now people do. People really do. People aren't like, it's kind of like with indie games, and they, you can pay a penny or you can pay as much as you want. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I like stuff like that.
But
yeah. So like, you can start it off. You can do your videos for free as long as you can afford it, and then once you start getting like people that like consistently really like your videos and like they're out there, and for that kind of stuff, you can just share your stuff and just kind of work the social media system to get people to watch. And then once you get to that point where you've got a decent following, you can start things like a Patreon for each episode, and that way people can donate money for content, and which is a fair trade in my opinion. And the thing is, they don't have to. And like Zach said, you have people that will pay more and people that will pay less, but typically the people that pay more will take care of the money lost when you have a lot of people paying a little bit of money.
Because I also like the idea that art should be accessible to anybody who wants it.
Yeah, but really all I need right now is, like, I need a MacBook. I need something that can run Adobe After Effects, because if I have that, I can make whatever the hell I want, but I don't have After Effects right now, so I can't really make any animations. Well, that's not true. I did post the other day a short animation that I made, like, with Microsoft Paint, but I'd like to be able to make stuff like I had before in After Effects.
That something that's cool about that too, though, is sometimes out of necessity comes different ideas. Like, for example, if it gets to the point where you get really desperate with wanting to create some artwork or just an animation of some sort of quality, if you have a camera of any kind, honestly, stop motion is always an option, and that's something that I think would be kind of cool with your art as well because of its nature of being on paper. And typically, when you animate, you typically take pictures or scan things onto the computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's something with stop motion. You could skip skip a step there with scanning on the computer, just taking pictures and then compiling those pictures in a way that would be like animation.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like
I did try claymation once. It didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
I guess I could.
I mean,
I don't know, I've always wanted to use like you said, my paper. Like I guess I could cut them out and make like kind of puppets out of them and make stop motion out of that somehow. I need a camera first though. So yeah, I need the resources before I can do
even
anything.
something like just a camera on your phone, you could attempt things with that too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer of like out of necessity comes creativity.
What I think we said it before. Necessity is the mother of creativity, or something. There's some quote that we said the last
I do
episode.
remember that. We were talking about that in I think the third podcast or something like that.
That was the last one with Randy.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Yep. I think, like I said, my goals are just to get by with writing some journalism or editorials online. So the one I have, I don't think is going to be enough to pay rent and afford food, but it'll almost get me there. So maybe I need to find one more website to do some writing for, and then together, $600, $700, $800 a month. That's enough to pay rent and food. That's all I need, and then eventually, I think if I work as hard as I can and try my best, I think my book can sell. It might not make me a millionaire, but it'll make me, if I sell a book a year or whatever, 2 books a year, I can $50,000 a book or even less, 30. It doesn't matter as long as it's enough to afford to live. That'd be awesome. I've been thinking about this a lot too. I saw someone on Reddit say like, there's a lot of like people thinking that artists kind of like there's no jobs in art, and he basically said that's not true. There are jobs, you just have to like find them, I guess. I think what I would say is for artists especially, it's like this. It's gonna be like this for everyone in our generation. A lot of people are graduating from college and then there's no job for them, and they're like, well, I guess I have to work at like minimum wage now, and this really sucks to spend all this money on this degree. And I think, especially for artists though, like artists are supposed to be the creative people. You got to get creative. Like you got to do something. Like you got to find your own job. You got to make your own way in life. I feel like that's really important. I feel like people are missing out on that a lot. They're not being creative enough with how they pursue, how they make money. I don't know how you get into like a creative field and then you graduate and then you're like, I'm just gonna wait for the job. You gotta go to the job. You can't wait for one to come to you. I think. And that goes with any field, but I just think the creative people of the world should be leading that charge. I think there's so much like, try and create something. Think of something like that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to make a community, like a Morgantown community, like almost a gallery of, but it's something more. It's like I don't know, it's something more than just physical. We're trying to make that and foster that and build off that. And then I've been writing my book, but I can't just sit back and write stuff. I've been reaching out to other people, trying to get journalism jobs and stuff. And before I write my novel, I'm going to try and publish a set of short stories, both to get familiarized with publishing and so I can. Short stories are easier to write than novels. They're shorter, so I can get those out and then make a little money. So you just gotta, and then if none of that works, I just gotta think of something else. You just gotta keep thinking and keep trying, and quitting isn't an option, or it shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, no. Like, an art profession or just a creative profession in general is something that you come out of college and you're not guaranteed a job. Because and it's not because they're not out there.
You're almost guaranteed to not have a job.
Yeah. It's not because they're not out there. It's because it takes character, gumption, and just
volition.
Using your and volition to get out and find it. Because you have to go out and find the job. You have to market yourself. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to go out and actually put in the work to get where you want to be.
Yeah, that's another thing. You gotta if you put a lot of work into something and it doesn't work, you just gotta say, well, that really sucks, and then start all over and do something new and learn from what you did and try and fix if there aren't. Maybe it necessarily wasn't a mistake, because it's never fair to say your art was a mistake. No art's a mistake unless you yourself made you made like, oh, there's typos in that, or I have a big water splotch here in my watercolor paint or whatever. But some stuff's just not marketable. Which, if you're trying to make a living, you gotta kind of adhere to what's marketable and then do what's not marketable for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on your goals.
It does.
Again.
It does. I had something really good to say.
And even if you don't, I think that's another thing too. Don't try and adhere to what's marketable, because probably what that's again, you gotta be creative. What you think is what the world thinks is as marketable. And there are going to be a lot of people in the business who say this isn't marketable. Well, keep trying, like for publishing, keep trying other publishers. Eventually, someone's going to give you a chance. And like people want what's new too. They don't want like what's just what's marketable. You know what I mean? They want to see something new. You gotta show people that you gotta show them what they want. They don't realize what they want, so you have to be like, this is what you want, and show it to them. And then they're like, that's what I want.
Exactly. That's a whole other realm too. You gotta be confident in your work. You have to stand behind it. That's something that I'm trying to learn myself, is to stand behind what I do and really fight for the fact that I think that what I'm doing is good. Because it's so easy for you to be like, just like, oh, I'm an amateur.
I'll never make it.
Yeah. Like it's easy to say that. That's the easy thing to do. People don't realize that, that's the easy way out. It's just to say, oh, I'll never make it, blah blah. I'm just another guy. I'm just another artist that's starting out. You got to find what you believe in and really stand behind it. Like the confidence shows. Like it shows when you're trying to market.
It shows
something.
More than anything. It shows in your work. If
Yeah.
if you're real like tepid and timid about whatever you're doing, it's gonna show that you kind of like almost half-assed, but. Even you can fake it until you make it, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you believe that what you're doing is good, it'll come out in your, especially with words. Like if I don't know, I think of think the writer for 50 Shades of Grey was E.L. James. It's probably not as fair because that started out online, but she never didn't believe in herself, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he or she. I don't know if it's
she
a woman or a man.
she
I'm
wrote
assuming it's a woman.
passionately about it.
There was a certain confidence in that
Yeah,
writing.
yeah.
There's no
example
timidness. She just did it and she believed in it.
Exactly, that's an example of
He or
how
she,
you make
I
it
don't know.
too. Because that's she's obviously not one of the great writers, but she had confidence in her work, and it obviously showed. She found something that was marketable, and she took advantage of it. It took off because she presented it in the way she did. And I think you can take her as an example of someone that has done exactly what we say here, is they've taken something and they're passionate about and really marketed it well.
They really like flogging and safe words.
Yep.
And they are very passionate about that.
Yep.
And it turns out there are a lot of other people who are also passionate about that.
See, you never know when you'll find a niche like that as well. That's the other thing about today's society, is everyone's trying to find their niche where they can dominate the market and kind of be the prevalent product. So it never hurts to take a chance with anything. You may think that what you have isn't marketable, but
I think a good example of that is a good example of being confident in your style, and it's not necessarily something that you think of people wanting, is Quentin Tarantino. Because if you get down to the basis of what Tarantino's films are, the plots are never what's substantial about it. It's character dialogue's a big thing, structure's a big thing. He usually does it's not chronological, so that's unique. The dialogue is so rich, everyone loves that, and because of that, it makes the characters rich. And then it's kind of it's almost whimsical amounts of blood and like gore and violence.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's the stories are usually darker, but like it I don't know, it almost has a light-hearted tone to it. Like he's having fun and he's being confident, and you don't think of this bloody thing with like not necessarily the most interesting of plots. Because like think of Pulp Fiction, like what's really going on there? It's not super interesting. It's just how the characters are interacting that's really good, and how that like what they talk about is always funny. And so that's a man who is very confident in what he did. And
I think when once you get that, like you have people saying, oh, these stories are, they're kind of dark. But then you have the other people that are like, oh, these are a bit more colorful. Like there's humor in this. I think once you get that kind of polarizing view, you've done your job right, because you get the best of everything, the best of both worlds.
I agree. And that's his niche. He's definitely filled that out, and you won't see for a while someone coming in to try and establish
imitate that,
territory.
yeah. Because no one's gonna be as good as Tarantino. No one's gonna like it as much. So you just gotta find your style and be confident in that style.
As much as it may feel like there's like it's limited the amount of styles that are left, or just whatever in that realm. I mean, just think about it in the way that think about how musicians feel about writing music. I mean, there is so many combinations of songs that you can like of just notes and chords that you can use. That I mean, you'll never run out. It's an undepletable well of possibilities. Like never be afraid that your style won't find its place. Like it'll always be different.
I'm getting sleepy. my new sleep schedule is rough.
Yeah.
Rough for thinking.
How good is it? Because it's 4:00 and you're already sleepy.
Well,
when have you been going to sleep?
I think I went to bed yesterday at like 8:30.
Yeah, you went early. Like I woke up like when you guys were like, "You guys ready to do the podcast?" Like, yeah, I guess so. I'll get up.
The worst thing is I'm not sleeping for like a full 8 hours. It's weird. I normally need like 9 hours of sleep, sometimes 10 if I fall asleep like late, like at a normal time, I guess for me. But not like I always do this. I go in cycles too because of I'm not gonna explain my sleep pattern, but it's real goofy. And then I always end up going the reverse, and I end up going to bed super early. But then when I go to bed super early, I wake up after like 6 hours, but I'm kind of like revitalized. But then like by 4 or 5, I'm like, oh, I'm ready for a nap. It's
You're
rough.
like on the night shift schedule that my dad was on when he was at Pilgrim's Pride. It's like he would go to bed like during the middle of the day and wake up like at 2 a.m. and like work. It's like I don't know. I don't like that kind of sleep schedule. I like my normal like go to bed.
I can do
like
everything, but that.
Guys, time doesn't exist.
It's a figment of our imaginations.
It's gonna be rough though, because I got
Machination.
Star Wars to watch at 9:30 tonight, which means I have to stay up till like midnight. Well, it's Star Wars, so I think I'll be okay.
What if you fall asleep in the middle of the movie?
On like premiere night,
You're like snoring so loud.
all the fans, so like that'd be people outside who didn't get a ticket. They're like, that guy got it. That'd be. It's like the people who like buy Xboxes and then go out into the line and smash them.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh, that would be great.
I should do that too. I should like.
I'm gonna laugh if like I see on like the news tomorrow morning, like the top page of YouTube, guy falls asleep in Star Wars movie, caught on film. It's like, oh no, that's Zach. Fans in outrage. Fans are outraged.
Like people dressed up like Jedi, like trying to kick you out of the theater.
Oh yeah, man. I'm so disappointed. I'm not gonna get to go on opening night. There's gonna be so many people like cosplaying and just doing all kinds.
I feel like I'm gonna
stuff
really not fit in. Maybe not though, because it's
there's
Kaiser.
gonna be a ton of people that aren't doing that as well. But Star Wars.
But how many of them brought their mom? Touche.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be an I'm your mother moment, and this
Oh,
is
yeah.
Star Wars. Be like, yeah, I knew.
Finn,
Mom.
I am your mother.
Your mother. No.
Well, it's already been spoiled for me who Kylo Ren is, so I know that.
Dang
So
it,
I know.
well, I'm glad
I know who is his father. So they can't. That if that's a big twist, would be kind of lame for me.
I want to see if I can take a guess.
No, don't.
Yeah, don't really.
I don't know anything about it. I don't want to. Not yet.
Actually, I don't even know if it's if what I know is actually.
True.
Yeah, it could just be like a dumb troll.
Someone's control.
Started like I was in a thread that had nothing to do with Star Wars, and then you know how like someone was just like I like scrolled down and then like I started to read and I read like one sentence. I was like, holy shit, wait, I shouldn't have read that. And then I like backed up immediately. But there's like a whole basically someone spoiled the whole movie, but maybe they made it up too because it was a couple days ago. And then unless you went to like the premiere, how would you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe or maybe not. But even so, like knowing who he is, it's not much of a spoiler anyways. Honestly, knowing like it's like yeah, now I know who the bad guy is, but like it doesn't. I don't think it'll affect the movie at all. To be honest, it's not that much of a. I mean, well, I'm not gonna say anything else.
We don't do spoilers on our podcast, especially for Star Wars. That would be a big no-no.
You could edit it out, idiot.
I could, but I'd have to find it. To mark the time when Zach said the spoiler.
That's a good example. George Lucas is like the perfect example of a man who turned his passion into profit because he like look up how they did the first Star Wars. They like their budget was not very good and no one had any faith in him. But he just was like, I'm doing what I want to. Then you get like the new trilogy, which is largely regarded as mediocre, and it was kind of like
it was for
George
profit,
Lucas.
Basically.
Well, no, it was still George Lucas's passion, but his passion wasn't. He went too overboard with his passion.
Yeah. I mean, there are good things about the episodes 1, 2, and 3, but there are a lot of bad things too.
Yeah, there's more bad than there is good.
I don't know. It's weird.
Darth Maul is badass.
Yeah, Darth Maul was awesome.
And I like. I know a lot of people make fun of it because it's like flashy and like overdone, but I do like I'm not gonna lie, I like the lightsaber battles in the new trilogy.
Like Anakin and Obi-Wan, I love that battle. Over
Episode 3 in general was like
actually,
pretty legit.
The lightsaber battles in those, in comparison to the old ones, I mean, the old ones were. Have you ever watched the Obi-Wan Kenobi and
it's really
like,
bad.
So, like,
it's
and like
Obi-Wan gets like a spin in there, like at one point.
It is like
this now. I'm like imitating the.
Well, I read somewhere it's because George Lucas originally he was like the lightsaber. It's a heavy like two-handed weapon. Like you can't hold it with one hand, and then like.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've also seen
because the way they wield it is like that.
A big part of it is because of the choreography wasn't as good back then as it would be now.
Yeah.
But another thing is like the lightsaber battles now are kind of like they don't really make sense either. It was kind of like fencing then. Mm-hmm. So not super. Now they look a lot flashier, but a lot of the moves are just like extra. Mm-hmm. They're not needed, and they're stupid basically. But a big thing of the original trilogy of what made the battles exciting was that all the lightsaber battles had like meaning behind them. There was like
it wasn't battle, it was the
like
conflict between the characters.
Exactly. That it was like a physical manifest of
a mental
of emotional battle. Exactly.
Well, like we don't just pull out our lightsabers for anything. Like it has to
be
big
and typically there was even conversation.
Well, it's not that necessarily, but it's like in the new trilogy, the reason for the lightsaber battles, the excitement of them was because it was a big lightsaber going real fast, and it's cool to look. But then the excitement of it was that it was slower and not as interesting, but every swing kind of meant more because it's like Luke and Vader are battle, like it's like their first battle, and you can see that like Luke's way overmatched, and like there's so much emotion in both of those. Yeah. So that's where all that's where the conflict and the conflict is emotional, but sort of represented in a physical way. Also, I think he got a lot of inspiration from like a samurai battle, to where it's kind of like real slow and steady. I think is what he wanted to. I think.
Well, even in like Return of the Jedi, like that last battle, it's a little quicker, and it's still like intense to watch. Like,
it got a lot better through the series. The worst one's just the Obi-Wan and Vader in Episode 4.
He like looks over at Luke and like disappears.
I've seen that so many times since since we're getting closer and closer to the premiere of the new Star Wars now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it really was really bad.
But yeah, the episode 6 one, that's the most badass fight because like that's where Luke is like he's just like pissed off and like there's no flashiness to it. He's just like hammering over and over with his lightsaber. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And you don't get that. Like there's no like that's not any in the new trilogy. You didn't get any like the emotion didn't control the fight. It was just like, you know, it's like woo 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 and it's the same.
I want to watch Star Wars.
I know. I'm like
I get to watch Star Wars tonight.
I want to watch all of them like right now.
Me and Daisy watched the original trilogy not too long ago because she had never seen it.
really.
I read somewhere like there's so many debates like what the best order to watch. No, I think it's go 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, then 6.
Machete order.
Yeah, because you get 4 and 5 the setup, then you get the big twist in 5, like I am your father. Then you get to see his story in 1, 2, and 3, and then you get the resolution in episode 6.
And I've also read people that you can, because that's really popular. It's called machete order. It's exactly like James described. Because like you don't want to watch the originals before you see episode 5, because then it ruins who Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
But and then like you said, after you see that, then you get to learn who he is and stuff. But you can actually just completely skip episode 1 because literally nothing that happens in it is relevant. Like you can completely skip it and you will not be any like worse for wear. Like you won't.
Nothing will be confusing.
Exactly. Because it doesn't elaborate anything, except I guess. Like even Anakin's origin doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
He's basically Jesus. No, I'm like the Force impregnated his mom. And he had no father. It's like okay. Whatever.
I just don't like skipping Darth Maul because he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. There's also
if anything, I guess episode 1 fleshes out the world a little bit.
It does, yeah. You need to see Tatooine and stuff. Mm-hmm. The best thing that came out of episode 1 was the pod racing. I love pod racing.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says.
Oh yeah, that was super popular. That
pod racing and Darth Maul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's just Jar Jar that people hated, and
yeah.
There's I don't know. There's just
Jar Jar and the underwater. Remember the underwater people?
Oh yeah.
The Gungans.
The Gungan. The whole Gungan
tribe. there's a thing of George Lucas talking, and he calls them the Gungas, and it's so funny. It's just so funny because it's like, if you can't get a name for it, like, if you're, I don't know. It's so silly. It made me laugh. But I read there's a guy who does like, what if Star Wars episode 1 was good, episode 2 was good, episode 3 was good. He just did that one the other day. I can't remember what he's called, but he's on YouTube. He's real popular. He does it for a couple series, I think. But what he did was that he made to make it more interesting. The original trilogy would have been not Anakin's, because like it really doesn't have a protagonist if you think about it. So what he does is he makes it Obi-Wan's story. It's like basically
That's what I heard. Like I have a friend in Lewisburg who will argue to the end that Star Wars, all of it, is the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like the Skywalkers are just side characters, but he will argue to his death that Kenobi is the driving force behind every episode. Which I don't know. It's kind of interesting if you think about it.
He's in every single episode. He is in every single one. Even in the after he's died, he shows up as
he's
an apparition or whatever.
But I mean,
I'm not gonna say that's what I.
Just because something's the driving force doesn't necessarily mean it's the protagonist.
Yeah.
The protagonist is just whose eyes you see the story through, which is obviously Luke in the original series. And then, but like I said, the original or the new one just doesn't have it's not really shown through anybody's eyes. Like it's really muddled who's it's supposed to be. So I think making that one purely Obi-Wan's interesting because it's basically making Obi-Wan like the equivalent of Luke's story. It's like a coming of age, growing up, maturing. Mm-hmm. And then they also said a big thing is like think of how many villains you have. Like in the original trilogy, it's like Vader. Vader's the obvious villain, and they said they should have done that for Darth Maul. Think of how cool that would have been if he was present in all 3. And then there's a lot of emotion there. Like, what if Darth Maul gets away at the end of episode 1? Then Obi-Wan's whole motivation is killing this dude who killed his master. So like that makes
forget about Qui-Gon.
Well, everyone does because all he did was die like a bitch.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
And I always
Surprised I
forget that
remember
Samuel L. Jackson is in those.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mace
we
Windu.
went to see it in 3D when it came
That
out
was
again in
like a boot.
3D, and like Samuel L. Jackson up there, like with his purple lightsaber. It's just
Yeah.
funny.
As much as I love Samuel L. Jackson as an actor, like, I don't know, I feel like in that movie it was just ridiculous to have him in it because you know that he wanted a different colored lightsaber to stand out, and he, like, I don't know, it's just.
The only reason I thought it was bad is because it's hard for me to be like, this is a Star Wars character. The whole time I'm just like, this is Samuel L. Jackson
Yeah,
in Star
exactly.
Wars.
Yeah.
Making a cameo.
I feel like if I went back and watched the first episode now, though, I'd think the same about Liam Neeson. Like, this is just Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
As a cameo. It's like, now that we've seen him and stuff and he's been popular, it's like...
But he did it. I don't know. He did a good job of playing like the kind of
Yeah, he
sage
did.
character
Yeah.
and stuff.
He did.
Not that Samuel L. Jackson didn't do a good job of playing his character, but it's just I don't know. It's so hard to see it as anything else than
Yeah,
Samuel L.
It's
Jackson.
such a pop
It's
culture
just kind of
icon.
humorous.
It's hard to disassociate him with
You
that.
can't take him serious.
Yeah, I think it's he's always doing like sort of comical roles in a way. Like think of him in Django. Like
It's the
that's
old- he's so old. Like that guy's like 70.
I love
love
that
that.
too. That's the
Yeah.
coolest thing ever is how like it's such a white supremacist like era and not movie but like the culture of that time and stuff, and then like it turns out that this like super racist guy with all these slaves at the end is being controlled by a black dude. It's a cool Tarrant like and it's I like it because it's subtle. It's real subtle. It's not like in your face about it either. It's just it has like one or two scenes where like that character is like sitting in a chair like and telling this other guy what to do. He's running the house.
Yeah.
It's real cool. And like it's something that you could miss if you didn't pay attention to the movie and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Tarantino.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Hateful Eight, that should be good too.
Did you hear about the first showing they're going to do of it?
What do you mean?
They're showing it, for the first showing, they're showing it in 50 states in 50 cinemas on 70 millimeter
Yeah.
film.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then they're doing that on Christmas Day, and then New Year's they're doing the actual Universal
The
worldwide.
digital one. I wish I could go see the 70 millimeter one, but I guarantee you that I'm not going to be able to find tickets anywhere for it.
That's true. That's
And
probably
I
true.
doubt it's going to be near us. The closest place I could think is maybe Pittsburgh.
Baltimore and DC have it too. I've already
Yeah.
looked. Yeah. I would love to do it though. I think that'd be so cool.
It would be awesome. It's something that we wouldn't typically get the chance to do in our day and age.
I think we should try and. I think it'd be cool if the three of us tried to. The only thing bad about it is on Christmas Day, but
Yeah, holy crap. I didn't even think about that. Oh, man, that's impossible. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I could do that.
Don't think I'd be able to.
well, dang. Well, we got off topic, but we did better than we normally do for staying on topic. And it's also impossible not to talk about Star Wars when it.
Well,
It's
it
right
comes out
around the
today.
corner.
Yeah. Like.
Holy crap.
tonight.
Yeah, it does come out tonight. Oh, man. I'm not going to be able to see it.
You guys have anything else to touch on about passion versus profit or anything even related? School education.
I'm pretty much tapped out with that, with that
Really?
topic.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything, which is weird. I usually.
Yeah, well, I think it's because it's a pretty understood kind of issue. I don't know if I want to call it an issue or not, but it's an understood concept, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It just finally got in my face recently.
Mhm.
Screen rant.
I do like. I like that we got our takes on it out there.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree because kind of hearing myself say it now makes me feel a little better about my position.
Though. Yeah.
It's like I'm not doing half bad. I've definitely
Yeah,
kept,
and,
I
like,
think, an equal balance.
We're like early 20s. We have so much
True,
time.
yeah, can't forget that. I do sit here and think that I'm almost halfway through my 20s, though, and that scares me. I've got less than a year and a
Even
half. before I'm
scarier
25.
Is
I don't know if I want to hear this.
they say that I think it's after 20, like the way you perceive time speeds up
Oh,
as you get
yeah.
older.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
why like old people are always like, "Wow, it's been a year already." You always hear that from old people. Like
Yeah.
a
Well,
year goes by so fast the older you get. So by the time you're 20, you've already perceived half of your life.
Oh,
way
no.
The way time moves. So like time has moved like from here on out, it's just Already-
Live in the other
You
half.
know,
brother.
now it was just Christmas last year,
Yeah.
like a few days ago, and it's already.
Think
God
about
damn
it that
it.
way.
It's like how we've all been like, wow, Christmas is in, 10 days or whatever?
There's
Like,
got to be a way to change it.
Yeah.
There has to be. I don't want my life to be already halfway over.
Hopefully, by the time we're getting up there, the medical science will progress
I don't
so
know.
much
I
that
feel like by the time we're up there, the world's gonna be in flames.
yeah, that's a possibility too.
but it's not like, the only thing you got to think of, it's not like, it's how we perceive it. And how we perceive time is largely due to memory. So, like, because, like, a day seems to take a while still. Like, it's going a day, but it's just, those days accumulate really. For me, it does. I think a day takes a while.
Days
Still for
seem
me.
like they go so fast for me. Like, the problem is, I know I perceive time shorter now. It's because I have so many things planned out in a day. Like, my days are planned out.
That
Like,
would
I'm
probably
never,
do it
like,
too.
sitting, like, what am I going to do today? I'm always like, all right, am I going to have enough time to do this today? Am I going to have enough time to do this today?
And,
That sucks.
You need to go off the grid, man.
I do.
But, the reason why time does that is because you perceive, like, time kind of slows down when you see something for the first time. You know what I mean? So the first time you experience something, that's in your memory more. So the way everything
yeah.
comes together. So by the time you're 20, you've already experienced so much that now you're gonna get less and less of those.
Yeah.
Zach, I have a suggestion for you. And I will be amazed if you haven't heard of it before. The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows.
I don't know.
Oh my god, look it up. It's this guy, John Koenig, that makes up words, but he does it with
Yeah.
etymological accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not
Basis.
just making up words
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
anything.
I get you.
Like, it's a lot of times it's a combination of words. But he's basically trying to make words for feelings that we feel that aren't
Express.
defined. So, like, one is Sonder is the realization that you're not the main character, that everyone else is living a life just as fleshed out as yours. Xenosign is the one where it feels like time is going faster as you get older. He's got a bunch of them though, and he has a blog for them, but he's recently started doing videos for them where he like talks about them. But they're amazing, but they're so like humbling, and that makes you really think. Like, what was one of the ones they recently did? I think it was something where he combined some word in cataclysm, so it was like cataclysm or something like that. I don't know, but it was the feeling of like longing for like the final storm, like how like when there's a storm, it's like you're so enthralled by the feeling of it, and you want it to be like bigger, and like the urge to have like a big storm, just as a realization that that's like the end. It's crazy. Some of the concepts that he defines are really cool.
I read it recently. I don't know 100% if I agree with it, but it's definitely something to think about. I think it might have been a quote by Aldous Huxley, the guy who did Brave New World.
I think I know it's...
It might have been him, but it might have been somebody else, because I don't know. Everything gets jumbled. But he was like lamenting the fact that even with all of his like writing expertise and all these words he knows, he can never 100% truly express how he feels. And I don't know. This for me is really kind of like divisive in my head. I can't tell which side I agree with, because sometimes I'm like, well, if you really combine words exactly, you can get exactly how you feel out there. But then another time I'm like, you really can't. There's some like the way you feel is like so incredibly difficult to express, no matter if it's what you're trying to express it in. It really made him depressed, like to realize that he can't ever express his true thoughts or ideas or feelings.
Yeah, that's interesting, because your thoughts are completely relative to you. Honestly.
I think I guess I would agree with him that you're never going to get it out 100%, but you can get so dang close that it's still kind of it's relieving.
Like, you can neglect the little bit.
You can get like 98%, and then there's like 2% disconnect, but that's always. And then I guess it made him feel alone. That like you know what I mean.
He's alone in his head, essentially. Wow, that is depressing to think about that. But no, yeah, I'm gonna make that as a recommendation on this podcast right now. Go check out Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Sorrows.
Or check out
Go check out Dictionary
Sean
of
Connery's
Obscure
dictionary.
Sounds a little more like no, Michael Caine's different than that.
Yeah, Michael Caine.
But yeah, go check that out. It's a really good channel.
Man, I still feel like I'm the main character of like this.
It's hard
like,
not to have
of
that
my
feeling.
universe
Because
like,
you only have one perspective of the world, and that's your own.
I'm Hey Arnold.
I feel like I used to feel like that all the time. But I feel like I finally gotten out of that. For some reason, I don't know. I don't know if I feel more in tune with the world or more disconnected. So like kind of sometimes I feel like I'm not any character in the world. I'm like a spirit that sort of watches the rest of the world in some ways.
You are the universe experiencing itself through the body of through a human vessel.
Could be. Maybe we all
are. Something I really want to get into studying now that we're getting all philosophical is whales.
What? The first part of that sentence didn't make any sense with the second part of that sentence. One thing I really like to eat for dinner is
what's he gonna say?
shirts.
I was like curious.
No, hear me out though. Whales are one of the few animals that can feel emotions, right? And through that, I feel like studying whales, you can learn a lot just about ourselves and just about how some other entity experiences the world. And that's really interesting to me philosophically, just because you don't like typically most animals, they feel emotions, but there's not like empathy.
There's no like advanced consciousness.
Yeah. And
you
from
get
what
that.
I've been reading, just from what I've learned, it seems like whales are like one of the few animals that do have that. Like we talked about it one time. I think we talked about it on the.
Might have been orcas.
Yeah,
those aren't whales
how they have different dialects.
Yeah, that's orcas. They aren't whales, but they're really interesting.
In the same genus, essentially.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, are they self-aware?
Sure
like,
yes.
Can they?
Orcas, I think, are Same with I think some chimps, some like apes are, and if you want another thing that's really intelligent, crows and ravens, or maybe maybe it's just ravens. But either one or both are extremely smart.
I think it's both.
Probably both.
Like I know they did a test with some, like, it was a gorilla maybe or some other primate, but they put like a marking like on its forehead and put a mirror in front of it to see if it would know like this is me, and like it tried to wipe off the marking on its head, so like that proved that it knew like I'm looking at my reflection, which is cool.
Actually, I know what you're talking about, because I think the only time they've ever because some apes and stuff and birds, they teach them like how to speak, and I don't think they've ever had one ever like refer to themselves or say like the word I.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that study is exactly, but they had it one time. There's a parrot, a really smart parrot, who did say I, but he said it in a really like dumb way. I can't remember how it was. I'll have to find it after this podcast because it's really interesting. I know what you're talking about.
And I was reading too that like humans, we don't even become self-aware until like the age of 3 or 4. Like they were doing tests on kids. I think it was something along the lines of like there's a red cup and a blue cup, and someone hides a ball under the red cup, and like a person comes in, and while they're not looking, someone else like moves it to the other cup, and they ask the kid like which cup will the first person look under, like, and they chose the other one, even though like there's no way the person could know, because and it's because the kids, they think that if I have this knowledge, everyone else does. Yeah,
I've heard that.
It's weird to think.
Well, they've on that same. I've seen studies where they have like cups of liquid, and one will be like short and fat, and the other one tall and like tall and skinny, and like they've done things where they're like they'll pour the water into both or something, and then they'll pour it back, and they'll ask the kids like which one held more, and they'll always point to like the taller one and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, see, that's where I was going with that whale thing. Okay.
Oh wait, there's another one too that they asked the kid like, I will give you a nickel today or a dime tomorrow, and the kid always chose the nickel today because they had no concept of like value or time or something like that.
Well,
and
I mean,
wanted it, like,
that's
right now.
That's a really interesting thing to think about, because there's something that they aren't perceiving. And I think we even get that as adults. We think we have everything figured out and that we perceive all there is to perceive, but I think there's so much more, because you can expand on that. Because if you ask someone, like the average person, like, what would you want? Would you want a penny? Would you want me to give you a penny and then every day I give you one more penny for like so many, like 10 years or something? So like today I get a cent, tomorrow 2 cents. Or would you rather me give you like a big large sum of money? And everyone would, for the most part, pick that big large sum of money. Well, the way like exponential increase works is that penny, like, and that extra penny, and then the next day, like, I don't know if I think it'd be doubling. Yeah, doubling would make it exponential. So you get a penny, and then 2 pennies, and then 4 pennies. Well, by the time however many years pass, you're gonna have $1 billion. But it's like that's kind of like the same thing. Is like you don't really have any concept of like that value. And once you learn it, you do. Same with kids, though. But I think you can apply that to more than just that. Like how we see ourselves and other people. I think there's more that the brain can't. It's kind of like how there are like infinity more colors than we can actually perceive that are actually existing.
Yeah, one of the
Our senses are limited by eyes, ears, nose, mouth. So
yeah, it's weird.
and then our brain is limited because
it's like one of the most sensitive creatures to color is a shrimp.
Really?
Yeah, it's the mantis.
Oh yeah,
mantis
that's
shrimp.
right. I've read about that.
They have like their
rods and
occipital,
cones.
whatever. Their eyes have receptors that can like perceive like 7 times 12 different colors. I don't know. It's like a ridiculous amount, but they can perceive a lot more colors than we can. And you always think, what's the point of that? But it really is crazy. You'd think that us being one of the most advanced in our standards beings out there, that we would have like the most heightened senses. Turns out it's not the case, though. I guess we're just most in tune with our empathy. What is it that makes a human so like it's empathy and cognition, I guess.
you're asking what is it that makes a human so special. That's a philosophical question that we haven't been able to answer for 2,000 years.
I don't know what I was thinking. It was something I could just answer right there.
This is not a suitable topic for 3 idiots on a podcast.
I was I think too, like we're more empathetic because we have like the concept of pain, like emotional pain, or which I was reading about like squid the other day, and apparently they don't feel pain the same way that other animals do. Like they have like receptors for their nerves like all over their body, so if like one of their arms gets cut off, like it will hurt the entire body. Like their entire body will react to it. Like if my hand gets cut off, like it's painful right here. Yeah.
Like locates the area.
And that's so weird that animal like, and then there are people out there that think like there are some animals out there that don't even feel pain at all. They just
I'm pretty
like,
sure
instinct.
insects do not.
Yeah. Like
which is why it's
ants
like,
don't.
You can like watch your videos of like a praying mantis eating a beetle, and the beetle's just like sitting there like whatsoever.
Crickets and grasshoppers don't feel pain. That like and like spiders are they're like technically they're more like machines than they are animals. Like they're just the way that they're programmed to do things. Like they all form webs. Like they all started out the exact same way. Like and I like that test that they did with different spiders on drugs.
Yes,
like
that is amazing.
To see the way that they formed really webs. Good. Like
it's really interesting.
Yeah, and like and they gave it like caffeine, and like it was just fucked up. I don't know.
That is weird to think about. That there are some brains out there that are basically no more than like a computer that we can make. It'd be interesting. And it's one of those things where it'd be interesting to see if like we become God and make like the next
animal.
We make the next humans in our own image when we transcend the world and become some godlike figures and travel the galaxy with no ethereal, like there's no corporeal body, and we're just floating entities.
Wow, that's I've seen so many stories and games and things take on that idea, and it's a mind blind thought.
Oh
Going
my
back
God.
to going back to storytelling, because you talking about this has reminded me of some lore from a pretty popular game right now, Bloodborne. Has anyone here played that yet?
I don't have a PlayStation.
Well, you need to find a way to play it because Bloodborne's right up your alley. Anyways, just gonna.
Why is it that up in my alley?
Oh, the lore behind that world is so in depth, but it's also so left up to interpretation. But man, is it cool. But with that, I think we're going to be bringing this podcast to a close. Do we have any more questions we want to answer before we sign off for one last time with James here?
James, tell us what your plans going forward are. Like, once you get to Lewisburg, what are you gonna do? And then, I guess just where are you going next?
I've got a few jobs lined up. My friend Miles, he works for a company. They go around and it's a welding thing, and I'm not exactly sure what he does, but he says he's gonna try to get me a job there, like welding in close quarters, which would be fun. And he makes like weird sculpture shit all the time there for fun, and that'll be nice because I've never really had the chance to like metal work other than like the sculpture class. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, Lewisburg is a big hippie town, so I'm probably just gonna be like drinking my troubles away there. Yeah, I don't really have any plans though. Like, this move for me mainly is to get my mind like off of things in Morgantown and just kind of focus on what I want to do, like solely what I want to do, which is something I've never been able to do ever so far in my life, which will be fun.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and don't you guys do this without me. Like, I got Skype or something. Like,
Well, don't worry, you're still going to be a big part of the Amateur Artist Assembly, and we'll make sure of that. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. It's always good to push the reset button, and kind of, it'll be like a new slate. You're going to a new town, trying something new. It's gonna be really good for you. I can assure you that.
It's not really a new town in the sense where it's come from.
Well, I mean,
but I get
well,
but still,
not come from. I mean, a lot of my friends are there though.
Well, I guess I don't know. I guess because you visited a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Good.
I've never lived there though.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think I knew that. Well, I guess that'll be that. So we'll do like some shout outs and then some explanations of our current work and where we're going, and then we'll call it a podcast. You start, Clem. Clem, James, me. So I can sign us out.
So, well, in the next month, I think we'll be trying to pick up a few more podcasts, maybe, depending on how everyone's schedules are going.
We'll probably take a break.
The holiday season will be
because we're losing James, and we got to figure out what we're gonna do with that, and then like how we can get him to still be on, or whether we do it over Skype or whatever. And then we're also not gonna be able to get guests as easy because it's gonna be over Christmas and stuff. So we'll probably take a break for like a couple weeks, two weeks or so.
At least the podcast, that is.
Yeah, not us,
something
but our
new
podcast.
that's happening though is the channel is going to start featuring a little more extra content now. We've got another show in the works that I'm going to keep the wraps on right now. That's going to be coming up. Also, we're thinking about starting to do shorts of all types of genres. We want to start, I think our first one is going to be a horror short film. So we're going to be working on those, and hopefully we should see some of those coming up on the channel within the next month or two. And so that's where the future of Amateur Artist Assembly is going at the moment. Oh, and also a website will be up soon. We'll be featuring artwork there and other galleries.
We'll have like biographies of all us and our guests and people we want to feature.
Yeah.
Their art's all going to be up there. And
also,
links to cool art we found on the internet and stuff.
Yeah. Also, I plan on putting a blog on that for whoever one of us wants to write to.
I will probably do that.
I'm going to be putting a form up for people that want to apply for being a guest, or just I say apply, but I guarantee you'll be accepted. But just as a formality, I'll be putting a form up so you can
It helps
know,
us too
tell
because
us
then
something. Tell us some things about Tell us some things about you, so we can kind of gear the podcast towards your direction.
that's
and-
usually how we do. We make the topic of the podcast sort of related
exactly. We'll ask
directly
your
to the
favorite,
guests.
ask your favorite alcohol and food. 'Cause we like to treat our guests well. But yeah, so that's where we're going from here on
Cool.
out.
James, or did you want to do any Twitter, Instagram, or anything?
Oh yeah. As we will be getting the website up soon. All of our information will be on there eventually. But for now, my Twitter handle is at JSClem, Clem spelled CLEM, 5002. And you can also find my Instagram and my Tumblr and my Facebook from that as well.
Yeah, ideally we'll have those up on the website so then it's not as burdensome to hear it on this and then try and find it.
And
if you're
eventually I'll
interested.
be adding some graphics as well.
So yeah, James.
My Twitter handle is at James Q Addison, no spaces. And I have a YouTube and an Instagram, and but I guess I can put those on the website too.
Oh, the YouTube's actually
Yep,
connected
YouTube is
to.
featured on our channel. So,
So-
if you go to our
Cool.
featured channels, then James' YouTube channel is actually featured there. And
And
then
there's some pretty cool videos. Check it out.
There are. Please check them out. They're awesome. Also, you mentioned about getting an Instagram. Is it just gonna be your personal Instagram that you're gonna be trying to put artwork on, or do you have another one?
No, it's just the one I have now. Like, I mean, as of right now, it's only artwork that I have. So I don't plan on putting anything else on it. So that's gonna be like my art page or my photography page, I guess, because it's all pictures.
Nice. All right, so we'll have that all up and available for everyone to check out. And
Another thing I was gonna say, because I'm gonna be working on a short story in the next couple days, and I really really like it, and it got me thinking too. If you needed like some references or some inspirations to do animation, you can use any of my short stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love to do that.
And then, because especially this next one I'm gonna do, I think it'd make a really good video.
is it the horror one?
No, it's not. It's not horror.
I was gonna say the one that we were talking about for the short film would actually work really well in his art style as well.
That's true.
Toss that at him as
And
well.
that'd be cool too.
Do it
I've already told him about that. I think at one point, but that'd be cool too because I was saying earlier how we could have like the same art form but in like so many different.
interpretations.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Or mediums. I mean.
But yeah, the next one I'm doing, which is actually kind of the opposite. It's real happy and cheery. It'd make a really good video. I think might not fit your style, so maybe not. But like I was saying, like I said, if you ever just want to do a video but you can't think of what to do it on, you can do it off any of the stuff I have. As for me, I'm gonna keep writing short stories and keep writing my book. You can find me at Zach_Wigfield, and you can also find me. I'm doing some article writing on ScreenRant.com. ScreenRant is an independent website. They mostly do movie stuff, so you can find like it's just all sorts of stuff: previews, reviews, information, trailers. Any movie news that gets announced, they usually do like a little editorial on, and we get I don't know, we're just doing a constant stream of them throughout the day. They're real interesting. There's a lot of really good authors on there. Check them out. The website's really cool. I like it a lot. I use it all the time. It's where I get all my movie news now. But I'm on there. I'm doing writing for some of their video game stuff. They have a small video game team, kind of. And so yeah, I'm writing on there. I just did an article on Nintendo and where they're going with mobile games. It's pretty interesting. Give it a read. Look me up. Give me some views. It'll help me out a lot. And keep an eye out for me going forward. Like I said, you can find me on there. You can find me at Twitter, Zach_Wigfield. I have a Facebook and Instagram, but I never use them, so it's not important. And that's that. This is episode 5 of Amateur Artist Assembly. And I guess we're leaving.
All right, y'all take care, and we'll see you after the holidays.
Yep, have a
See
good
you
Christmas.
Merry Christmas!